Hello and welcome to another episode of the MoxStars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Evan Kunai, and I am here with my great friends and esteemed colleagues, Jordan Garcia.
Why, hello.
And Christopher Ritter.
Good evening.
I love the energy.
Today we're going to be talking about branching into other formats. We've finally felt the grip of Commander like loosen its hold on us, and we've expanded out, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, there's been a lot that has happened in the last couple weeks that, we've been very active in the Magic community. We have been we went to the pre-release for Brothers War. Brothers War came out. I did
3 of them that week.
Yeah, we've been playing a ton on Arena. We've been
a lot of new stuff for us.
Yeah, and then the fact that Magic 30 happened, the train wreck of an expo that was put together, and the Magic 30 Secret Lair has been purchased, sold out, and delivered. And so we can just kind of talk about some of those things, cover the news that we've missed in the past couple weeks.
How long did it take to sell out? Do we know this? Was it like same day kind of vibes?
Yeah, it was same day.
Okay.
There were...
We didn't know. We didn't know if we needed to be there the second it came out or what.
With the way that Wizards has been handling a lot of their stuff lately, it's been very confusing because, I know that, everyone was, setting alarms, right? That when it was announced, the first 7 cards were revealed, everyone was like, for $150, those 7 cards are worth it. And I get 23 more cards alongside it. Hell yeah, I'm buying that. And so a ton of people set their alarms for, what was it, October... I can't remember what day it was. Yeah, I tuned out after a while, after I saw the next 23 cards, and I was like, yeah.
I saw the Necropuns, and then I saw the other ones, and I was like, fuck this.
And a nice Chrome box.
And shout out to Dan Frazier for making a sick Chrome box. Once they started adding rarity chance slots in the primo paid for product where you don't even get a guaranteed foil anymore, I tuned out. I'm done.
Yeah, none of them were guaranteed foil, which was a heartbreaker.
The point of the Secret Lair is to eliminate some of the randomness, some of the gambling from the experience, and now you're adding it back in.
It is a premium product. You don't buy it unless you want a premium product. No one's trying to get non-foils.
That bonus slot, that bonus card that you get with the Secret Lair, that's where that's for.
100%.
Yeah, that's the
experiment away. Put whatever you want in there. It's a fun little nugget. That's awesome. But I don't know. If I'm paying for it, that's what I want, and I'm not paying for it because I'm not getting what I want.
Yeah. So to answer your question, did it all sell out in one day? It did. It was rumored that it had sold out in the first 2 hours. No one knew how many they had, and they had no limit on any amount that any person could buy. I think it was you could buy 10 of them in a single purchase.
They just said a limited run. They didn't say how many.
Yeah, so you could buy 10 of them or something in a single purchase, and so then you could just purchase your 10, get back in line, buy 10 more, and I'm sure there are people who did that multiple times, but there was at one point, because it went live at 8 a.m., and then it was 10 a.m. and sold out, and then we were getting messages from people overseas, in the UK, that were saying, if you go to the UK website, it's still available. And so you could place your order there and just have it, pay the additional shipping and have it shipped.
Get that VPN.
Yeah, to the United States. So there was, some miscommunication or just some confusion there. So did it sell out in 2 hours? No. Did it sell out in one day? Yeah. And
listen, Wizards of the Coast has only done this Secret Lair thing 40 or 50 times now. They give them time to figure it out. There's some kinks.
Some ironing out left to do here. But, the whole thing has wreaked a high hell of failed experimentation too, Secret Lair in general, where at the beginning you were getting crazy massive packaging to make you feel like you're getting this premium product, and over time they've slowly whittled down the amount of packaging because people were saying how absurd it was. And then now with the Magic 30, the Secret Lair you spent $150 on, you waited in line to get it, and you may have bought 2 or 3 of them, and then all of a sudden they show up in these thin card stock envelopes.
Pretty much how all of them show up nowadays is just I appreciate that they're not creating a ton of waste, but just ordering a card off of TCG Player comes in a better case than these.
Yes. If the lesson from any consumer goods industry is if you're selling a high level product, the packaging needs to meet that. If you're buying a Yves Saint Laurent bag or something, or like Jimmy Choo shoes, like or a Tiffany necklace or something, the packaging rises to meet what that object is.
Right.
Like the packaging is part of the experience. Like that Tiffany box is a coveted item, like
And you hold on
in its own.
Yeah, like my fiance, she bought like a really nice pair of Gucci sunglasses. Came in a dope blue velvet sunglass case. She has that forever. Even if she lost those sunglasses, she would hold on to that because it's freaking awesome. But I just don't think more packaging to throw in the trash is that perceived value we keep talking about. Like, I don't think that's the way to do it. You can do a nice sleek
But you do
package.
need to put, you have to put thought into it at a minimum.
Just get like
And they don't.
a matte black envelope slip that has like secret layer and gold text emblazoned on it. Like, that would cost very little waste. And I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a nitpicky
Well,
thing.
it's just the problem they're running into now is that a lot of these, it's maybe not a super high percentage of them, but there are a alarming number of them that are coming in damaged that people are receiving.
I've seen
There's an element of just like slop it up, piggies. Like it doesn't matter.
Like
we
that
can do
more
whatever.
and more. Yeah. Like they were like, this is for our esteemed people that are like our ingratiated players, and they really want to get access to this exclusive content. And now it is just eat up, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just force feeding us like foie gras geese.
Yeah, there've been times where I've like ordered Secret Lair. It's only been 2 times that I've had an error with my like order, and I've just reached out and they've been super helpful. But there's also like the flip side of things where I've heard of like stories on Reddit where people will be trying to contact Wizards of the Coast for the damaged product they released or they received, and then Wizards just goes, well, they would send them photographs, and then Wizards would say like, why would you do that to your cards? And then they're like, oh, well, I thought you were going to help me out with this. And so that's a long, arduous process to say, do you believe me or do you not believe me? And then you have to go through like jump through multiple hoops, and then you finally get your product back. But they make it more of a headache than it's been worth lately. I don't know if they're understaffed in some departments.
I'm
not sure.
No, I mean, there's a technical term of art for it in business, which is, you provide bad customer service in order to get people to, fuck off.
Comcast.
Yeah. You make.
Have you ever called Comcast before?
Like, I do one day want to have Card Kingdom as a sponsor, but their in-person, in-store pickup is a little to be desired, because when you place your order and you go pick it up and they hand it to you and they say, have a great day, here's your cards, go on, get, and you walk out of there, and let's say you got home after picking up in person, or you just went to the next door coffee shop and you saw that they had made an error, or you got a card that was more damaged than you would expect it to be. You will go back there to the counter, and at the front counter they will say, did you leave the store? And you say, yeah. Is that a problem? And they said, yeah, we actually don't do like returns, or like you can't like submit a request after you've left the store.
Yep.
It is left, the condition you have it now is a condition that you will keep it forever. They won't help you at all.
Yeah, I've gotten like the wrong card where it was just like one name was wrong, and so it got filed in the wrong spot, and the person who was pulling it just didn't give a fuck, went to the slot, pulled it out, and like it was a 50-cent card versus like a $10 card, and I was like, I got all the way home and I'm like, guess I'm fucked. I should have checked before I left.
Yeah, man, I have. I always check in store, and
I do every time now.
Every time, and I had an incident where I wanted like the Strixhaven Archives Gift of Estates, and I got the Japanese Strixhaven Gift of Estates, which they're both dollar cards. I think there's negligible difference in value, but I wanted the one version versus the other version, and I saw it immediately, said to the person like, hey, I got the wrong version, can you correct this? And they're like, yeah, sure. In the moment, still correcting one card, like I was there for another 40 minutes just waiting for them to run out this $1 card.
No, it's got to be like
my time is worth slightly more than
100%.
that. Like
This
it,
should be a
it felt real bad.
Like customer service wise, there should be like red flashing lights upstairs. Like we fucked up. Let's remedy.
Well, I don't know about that, but like still, like, hey, this person
I
is here
don't know.
picking up. We messed up a thing. It's one
I
card.
guess I hold myself
Yeah.
to higher customer service standards than most people are held to.
There is one service that they offer that I will go back for every single time, and this is when you have to dig deep in your pockets. But if you buy a card with over $100 in value from Card Kingdom and you go pick it up in person, they will bring down multiple copies of it and allow you to evaluate the card that you get to pick and choose.
Do you examine it with like a jeweler's loupe and all that sort of stuff?
They have like a jeweler's lamp at the table. Like
You have to
it's like,
bring your own loop though.
oh no.
You gotta bring the loop.
No. But they do let you like hold the card in a perfect fit and like examine it in the light to like choose which one. So
Highly recommend if you're getting anything pretty much over 100.
yeah, if you're in the Seattle
You gotta
area,
ask for it,
if
though.
you're in Washington State, that's actually like a service they offer. You can get in-store pickup in as long as you have a Washington State address.
Yeah,
So,
anywhere in Washington, if you're buying a bomb, like if you're getting like a Mox Diamond, you're gonna buy it from Card Kingdom anyway.
hop on the train.
Hop on the train.
Make a little
get
train
there.
trip.
Like I don't feel comfortable buying off TCG Player for like reserve lists and stuff like that. Just like I just don't trust the U.S. mail system like that.
This
well.
is such a wild conversation. We're like, listen, the customer service at this place sucks in these various aspects. But definitely, if you're going to spend a lot of money, you have to go.
You gotta go.
have to go here.
Just know
If you
what
want to give them a lot of money, you go there.
yeah.
just know what you're getting into and be smart about it. And like I think that's just one way to be smart about it is if you're going to spend a lot of money on a card, go there so that you can guarantee that you're getting something that is
You choose it.
of the high quality.
You spend a lot of money on anything, see it in person first.
100%. And I honestly think
Yeah.
like a lot of times the Card Kingdom has such a high quality grading system compared to other shops and way more uniform than like TCG Player, which is a billion different shops. And so I feel like, say if I'm buying a dual land, I feel like I can buy a dual land at the good, which is the lowest rating. And if I go through 4 of them, I can probably find a VG out of that. And
Yeah.
but I paid for a good. Like, because that's how high quality stuff is. Or a lot of times we'll do VG and I'll pull something that's like pretty close to an EX.
There was the time I bought the original foil Seedborn Muse for $25 at a G rating from Card
Yep.
Kingdom. I
It
got
was
it.
crispy though.
Yeah, I got it, and it was definitely EX, closer to near mint, and I was just like,
Yeah, sometimes.
"Oh
it
my
just-
god!"
Yeah.
You know, I got it, and then I sat on it over the pandemic, and I turn around and flip, and it's like $250.
You made a really good trade with that.
Yeah,
one.
and I just turned around and traded that up for, traded up with that. And it's just crazy how good a quality you can actually get at the G slot.
But if you
more
just,
money-
like-
more money you spend, like I said, if it's over $100 and it's in the, in the G slot, you can actually go in and check out the top 3 or 4 options that they have, and then you get to pick the one. So you actually make the choice. It's your responsibility at that point.
Yeah, I pretty much will never buy a good without inspecting it, honestly,
Right,
because for how you can pick out some great goods that are VGs, but oh my god, they have some awful goods too. That it's like, yeah, the corner's missing on this one.
Good
It's
is a big range.
It is
It's
quite
their
the-
minimum range, and it's
Exactly.
So it's a wide range.
Yeah,
it's the bottom 50%
yes.
essentially.
They still want to sell it, but what that entails might vary.
Yeah, I would say if you're shopping on TCG Player and you are selecting good in Card Kingdom, you're basically selecting between moderately, heavily, and damaged.
I'd say if you're good, you're between heavy and damaged more often than not.
Yeah, there's definitely some like significant wear and tear to the card, but I don't know if they have someone up there who like cleans white borders, but there've been some like VGs I get from them that are just like immaculately clean. Like I'm not sure if they clean up the edges.
Yeah, it's just I feel like sometimes with like the reserve list stuff, like I've bought duels from them at good slot, and like I've gotten lucky sometimes and sometimes less so because when the card is of that value, they really want to sell it, even if it's not in great condition. It's
Right.
not like they're throwing out a quartered card.
Do you think it's like a restaurant that like during the slow season they start like deep cleaning goods? Like, hey, if you want to get your hours, I can cut you, or you can start scrubbing down the white borders of those revised dual lanes.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh man, they got to be so slow during the slow season. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have a slow season.
Yeah, I guess
there.
upstairs probably not. Upstairs.
Yeah,
probably.
there's a reason they unionized. They were being worked like crazy. They
Yeah.
were working into the deep hours of the night.
Well, this has been a ridiculous, wild intro. We should move to
Yes.
our main topic here. Just to remind everybody, if you forgot, I would not blame you. We're talking about the value of playing other formats. We're pretty ingratiated Commander players. I don't know, Chris, if you define yourself as...
I came from the opposite direction.
Correct. You went
Yeah.
from like a constructed format, 1v1, doing that. Evan, what was your background? You did that too, probably.
Yeah, I started playing in like 2016 and played well, I was out in the backcountry of Alaska, so we got our hands on what cards we could.
Tabletop.
Yeah, tabletop, like 1v1, 60 card decks. You know, like at the time it was Amonkhet, so we were like, I guess, playing standard, but then we didn't like truly see the full scope until we got out of the backcountry.
Right.
You know, that, yeah. So I guess I played standard first, and then I strayed into Commander later on.
Right.
And then I just dove head first into Commander. I loved it so
Right.
much.
And you got me into Magic, and so Commander has always been, my main format. And I feel like there's the old world Magic kind of vibe where it's like you guys, started in the constructed format. That's pretty much how everybody got into the game. And then you maybe grew into Commander. You realized, like everybody else, that you can do a lot more stuff, a lot more fun, funky synergies.
You can put your collection to good use.
You put your collection to good use.
That was a huge advantage for players like wanting to make the switch from a constructed format to Commander, was that like all the cards that had rotated out of standard.
What do you do with them?
Yeah, they now had a significant use.
Sort of selling them back for Chase Mythics.
Right, and that's just like that deadly like cycle you end up spiraling down into, is just like if you're chasing standard over and over and over, and you're rotating like out your cards and then just selling them back for like Chase Mythics and whatever like you're going for, it is just an unhealthy pattern, because you were just like, you're not gaining any ground.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's originally what got me out of standard. I loved the Return to Ravnica standard format, and it was with that block that they changed the standard format, right? It was around that time. And what got me out of it was just it became too expensive to keep up with the rotating format. It just became a faster rotating thing where, you would invest all this money in building this deck, and then a few months later it's no longer part of the meta. Like
Right.
even the pieces aren't part of the meta. Like, I'm trying to think, like the signifiers there, like Thragtusk was like,
Right.
Swag Tusk.
yeah, that was like a dominant card, a $50 card that you needed in your deck at the time to compete in standard, and then it rotates out and it's down to like an $8 card or something, which feels really bad.
So if you're looking at Commander decks you've picked up in the past recent years, and you see Thragtusk in the list, like it's a huge callback to that era of like standard when
They definitely had it in their chaff.
yeah, like it's chaff now, but it was at one point $50, and I can't tell you how much money I've made off cards, like just paying attention to standard rotating cycles before Commander became like this huge popular thing. Like I would say that like it was War of the Spark and beyond that like Commander really started turning up, and that's like it had existed for, I don't know, like 6 to 8 years already at that point as like an official format.
The go-to format for a long time.
Yeah, standard and everything, and modern was even just like the go-to. So like when War of the Spark came out and, Finale Devastation was announced, and no one blinked an eye, and they're like, this just isn't good in standard. And then I was like, I'm going to buy 8 of these right now. And you watch some stuff rotate out, and just has value. I think we're starting to see like cards actually climb back up now. Cards that used to rotate out of standard fall from grace, like tank in price, and now that Pioneer is like this like growing format, we're starting to see these cards like come back into their own and like rise in price again. I'm actually hating how much I have to spend on some cards.
Yeah, money does not go as far on the card market as it used to. But yeah, and then like I also think with like Commander getting more and more popular, it is now, as it seems to be statistically speaking, the most popular format nowadays. It's how a lot of people get into Magic nowadays, which is polar opposite of how it was in the past.
Absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah,
people are learning Magic on Commander. I don't know how you did it. You just
and we even started kind of halfway because we 1v1 Commander. That's kind of how I got into the game. You showed me mechanics, and then I found some synergies. But like, kind of, it seems very daunting. Like four-player Commander out the gate. There's a lot to keep track of. Although it's kind of casual, it's still just so much stuff. But that is also now having an impact on cards, and that's why you're seeing standard rotated out cards that are not legal anymore, but they're really freaking good in Commander sometimes. So then you'll start seeing that market pick up, and now we have multiple markets all like balancing back and forth with each other.
Yeah, super hot take here. But I'd say that Commander is it is not the most expensive, but it is one of the most expensive formats to just dive right in.
Right. We were
I mean,
talking about
it can be like
Yeah.
because the card pool encompasses all of the money cards from Magic's 30-year history.
Yeah.
Which hopefully you commemorated with some purchases of Wizards of the Coast Magic 30
Chill.
commemorative collector packs. Blah 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 blah. Mark Rosewater, I'll just
What a fucking shit.
send them my way. Some packs.
Oh, we're all shills. I'll open them on stream.
What was it? But anyway, just because the card pool encompasses all the money cards from Magic's history, like, you know, you can do it very cheaply, or you can do it in a very expensive, blinged out way. But the entry level option is, you know, you're just going to stumble across like a $50 card out of nowhere that.
Yeah.
You know,
You're like, oh shit, I actually really need that to make this work, unfortunately.
exactly.
Yeah, it's the eternal formats that really drive the price up, you know, because the craziest, most powerful cards in Magic are legal and available to play. And I think that's like where it's almost like,
I mean, and also the other thing I want to say is that like cards from recent sets that are very expensive, like Urza Saga, like Dockside Extortionist, those are mostly Commander cards. Like, you know, anything that falls into that range. So, like,
nobody else
Commander is the format that is going to have the money cards if you're not talking about, like, Vintage or Legacy.
Right. Yeah. No, it is absolutely crazy how expensive it's gotten. But less on the price thing, just, like, coming from a Commander player standpoint, we've played it nonstop, religiously for, like, 6 fucking years. So now, like, why all of a sudden are we starting to, like, feel this change? I feel like, yes, it's gotten so expensive. It used to be billed as like the cheapest format, but that's all. Like we were talking earlier this week, it's just like that's only if you're just fine grabbing whatever garbage commons, uncommons, draft chaff you have and putting together a 100 card list. Like if you were trying to do a like fully like synergized, like fully executed, well-tuned deck, it's going to be so much more expensive than like a standard deck.
Yeah, it's the minimum $500 like.
And that is
you got to bankroll this thing.
There is literally the CDH Budget Brews. It's its own channel. It's a super good guy and stuff like that. And he was just on a podcast and he literally just said is like, we use that to get people in the door because it's a nice buzzword, but it's impossible. Like it is, his budget brews are $500 to $700, and that is a budget deck.
Well, there was when we were at Marchesa and we were competing, there was like an announcement made, and they're like, out of the 100 players today, 99 of them had, you know, pretty much one of any of these most popular cards, and the only person who didn't have this card in their deck, which was like a Mana Crypt.
I think it was Mana Crypt, yeah.
Yeah, was the budget player who, you know, was very firm on his budget and said he was not going to play more than a $300 deck.
Which, like, shout out. I'm not saying it's not a gatekeeping kind of perspective and stuff like that where I'm saying you have to buy it or get the fuck out. It's just like, if you want to compete, you need a Mana Crypt.
Yes.
Like, you got to have a Mana Crypt.
And not for nothing, proxies are definitely within your budget.
Proxies are definitely within your budget.
Depending on, you know, the community you're playing in.
We are very friendly with that.
This deck could potentially cost you $15. Well, $20 after sleeves, but like that is what you're looking at as far as like price discrepancy. It's like if you wanted to go out and play Commander at its very base level, you're going to probably go out and get a precon and spend $40, which is already more expensive than proxies and sleeves, and then turn around and realize that this is a very slow deck. It is not optimized.
The mana base is awful.
Awful. You can't hardly even play this thing. You're looking at cards that cost 6 or 7, and you've been stuck on 4 lands for the last 4 or 5 turns.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there, and how are you supposed to enjoy the game? I'm not saying that optimized Magic is the most fun way to
like
enjoy
you have
the
to
game.
do it, yeah.
You know, but
max out every slot in the 99.
I think I'm just finding that you just have to have some efficiency with the build. It doesn't have to be
It feels better
strategy.
when you're able to play your cards.
Yes,
right?
you
And
gotta
you
be
need
able to play.
create the situation where you can play the cards, and bad synergies don't allow you to do that.
Right.
Yep. And sometimes like the card you need that just like snaps the synergy together. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the $50 card, you know, and especially on these synergy or these like mechanics and stuff that have been around.
Heuristic Study is going to solve a lot of problems. Like just
does, yes.
baseline,
Are you playing
you know?
blue? You probably looked at Heuristic Study at least once for your deck.
Yeah, Mystic Remora. It's sitting right there. You know, it's like for the older version, like that one artwork that had been there for so long. I was shocked. Honestly shocked. Every time I looked at the price of Mystic Remora, I was like, how is this not $25?
It's always been like $3 or $4.
Yeah, it's always, you know, and at the high point, it was like 7 or 8. And you're
It is
like,
one of those cards for like a single printing card that is massively used, widely used.
why is it only $7 or $8?
That is
and
true.
then finally the Secret Lair, dropped, and we got another artwork and
Thank God
some
we
more
needed
premium versions.
We
but
needed a better art. That art.
yeah, it was,
No offense to the artist, but that sucks.
no, but the Kellogg's loop. Woo! What
take
an
it.
artwork.
Yeah. No,
What an artwork.
it was great.
Yeah.
But I'm having a lot of fun kind of switching gears. Like, obviously, we're still going to play CDH. Obviously, we're still going to play, like, regular Commander at the game night with the boys and stuff. But we've been doing a lot of Limited. It's been so much fun to just kind of take a step back and your head is not so far up your ass about, this, like, 100-card deck and maximizing every slot. Because you don't need to play like that, but we do like to play like that. We're competitive.
You invested hours of your life into making this deck be good. And when
Right.
it doesn't play well, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
Like it,
Like
It's not even just hours. It's like hundreds of hours that we're putting into it.
But yeah, because then you play test it, and then on Moxfield, and then you, like, for us, we do proxies because we brew all the time that it is unfeasible to be buying or selling cards and trading back cards to build new decks all the time. So, we'll play test it on Moxfield, then we'll print off proxies, then we'll play it with the group. And if, like, this is the deck, then shit, start trading, start saving, because that shit is crazy expensive. But, like, Evan and I just got into Pioneer this weekend. Chris got into a few weeks ago, and, like, we finally made the jump. We just played on Arena for
historic.
Historic.
Yeah, we played Historic on Arena, but you can basically just build a Pioneer deck.
Yeah, and
Very similar card pools.
yeah, and like we built them because we just had all these free wild cards from drafting all the time. Built the decks we wanted to build. Ended up crushing and having a great time all weekend. And we're like, holy shit! It would cost $70 to go to Mox right now and get this entire deck, mostly in foil, which like feels really good compared to Commander. So I really think that like that dichotomy or that like concept that Commander is the cheap way to play Magic, I definitely don't think that's fucking
No,
true.
I spent $100 on a fully foiled out premium deck with Galaxy foil lands for $100.
Okay,
That feels
but
good.
does that include like assuming that you have the mana base and everything? Because I mean,
these-
Pioneer decks can still be expensive. Like I have,
For sure.
I have a build of Greasefang, which I was able to build for $40 in new cards, but that's because I had 4 lilies already. I had, the Godless Shrines. I had a lot of the other expensive cards already from my time in Standard and in other formats.
No, this is like fully, like the full deck, because I just played basics. Because it's only 2 colors, and I know that Greasefang is also only 2 colors, but there are some pieces that like, Liliana helps throw your Parhelion in the grave, and you're just like, that's just gas for the deck. But this is just like crazy Menace Tribal, where Labyrinth Raptor is like the pivotal piece. So like Labyrinth Raptor was the 79-cent borderless foil, and I was just like stoked to see that because I've loved the card for so long. So yeah, it was definitely ground up. $100 to get all the premium like little doodads, shiny nozzles, and whatever that I wanted. It's been very refreshing because I think there are so many times now that I've wanted to play competitive Commander, competitive EDH,
Yes.
where I go to like fill up a cart and it's $900 because
I mean,
at
assuming
that
you don't
point-
have some of those staples, $2,500 is probably the ground floor.
No,
right?
I had a $2,200 cart that like I wanted to like fulfill. Like I just started putting in this huge trade-in order, right? And I'm just like, how close can I get to the $2,200? How much more do I got to spend? And there have been times where I'll trade in $700 worth of cards, and then I'll be filling up the cart, and I'll be like, I need this reserve list, I need like Wheel of Fortune, I need a dual land, and stuff like that, and it'll take the cart up to $900, and I'll be like,
You're 3 cards in?
Yeah, it's like 3 cards in, and I'm like, it's just $200 of the $900 that I would have otherwise had to pay. So fuck it, pull the trigger, and you just, and then you realize the tax is $90.
Yeah, and not for nothing
Washington
too.
tax
Like
great.
those little cards, some commons from Mirrodin or some random old set, $5-6. Those add up.
Yes,
Get
they
20 of those in a 100-card deck. That's $100 right there.
I mean, that's why like the structure of my Pioneer deck is like 4 Gold Hound. Like it's like that is a premium card in my deck. Like it does
It is actually
so
crazy good.
much for the deck. And then it's like some of the expensive cards are like the expensive cards are Professional Facebreakers and Phyrexian Flesh Gorgers, which I have not bought
Borderless
yet.
foils.
Of
course.
I
of those.
bought the
That's
borderless
why they're
foils.
expensive cards.
But I had them before. Like I had bought into like professional face breakers. Jordan and I both did.
Jesus, yeah.
As like investment pieces because we think the card's just nutty. But the fact that now I can play 4 of them in this crazy deck that I already had laying around, it's like...
And that's the other thing, too, about these other formats. Like, being able to play 4 of something feels good. It feels good having it in your opening hand all the time or drawing into it all the time.
It's very...
Like, you're essentially... in a 60-card deck, you're choosing 10 or 12 cards and saying, I want 3 or 4 of each of these.
Yeah,
and you're like, I want to see these all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan asked me.
It's fun to see that come together instead of building that Rube Goldberg machine where it's like, which of these parts are going to land in my hands, which I know you love, Evan. You're shaking your head.
Well, I'm saying that is...
Our viewers at home know that.
That is exactly what it feels like. It feels like a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah.
It is just building this paper castle and just watching it. Like, hopefully the marbles fall in the right place. But you try to include as many tutors as you can to keep things consistent.
Keep the thing going. I think not only is it like you're talking like the hurdle of getting into competitive Commander is financial, but like even when you have the decks like we do, it's hard to get 4 competitive people together with decks of that caliber. It's also just kind of like a lot to sign up for. Like the amount of times like our play group on Discord, like our CDH play group, wants to like hang out and play after I get off work, and I'm like, that sounds great. And then I get home, I'm like, that sounds fucking terrible. I don't want to do that.
I gotta set up my webcam. There's a little bit of labor involved to like kind of set that up. And I'm not saying that you guys aren't worth the work for all of you listening. I love you all. It is just the exhaustion from the non-sedentary jobs that we have where we're running around all day.
Yeah, my brain's going a million miles an hour, and I get home and I'm like, great, now I have to process all these interactions, everything. I play against so many stacks players in our group. They're like, this game could be 20 minutes or it could be 3 hours, and like I will only get one game.
Yep.
But like, Pioneer Night, whatever, go on Arena, it's so great to just have that caliber of competitive mindset, which it's very hard to find in Commander, and you can just pick it up 10 minutes. Pick it up 10 more minutes.
Yeah, you can actually find it on Arena too at will.
Yeah, easily. Nice. Like literally at your fingertips on your computer whenever you want. And then pretty much every game shop has a Pioneer Night now, has a Magic or a Modern Night, has a Pauper Night. If you really want to save money, like there's just it's a great way of just seeing new strategies, seeing new synergies and things you want to like play. Like Fading Hope is this insanely amazing card in my mono blue deck. It is a 1-mana blue bounce spell, and as long as the creature was 3 or less, you get to scry 1.
It's the most annoying.
It's crazy good.
Upshift, like it is unsummon evolved.
Yes, it's like way better than
unsummon.
Good. And so it's just like I get to buy 4 of those, and they were 75 cents a pop, and boom. And then I had to play 4 Make Disappear, and those were 70 cents a pop. Boom. That's 8 cards out of my 60-card deck done. So yes, it can be way more expensive, especially when you get into other constructed formats like Modern stuff. Like the price just keeps going and going and going.
We don't want to play Modern.
We're not talking about Modern.
We don't want to play Modern.
No offense to the Modern players,
we
but
could
we're not
we could technically play Modern.
Expensive format, not nothing against Modern players, not the most fun people to be around.
Yes.
Like it's kind of like that professional poker like player mindset.
Yeah.
Like you get a bunch of them together and it's not fun.
Yeah. I'll fuck with Pioneer.
Yeah, if that's who you are as a person, do it. If you're a chiller, don't.
These are all players in Modern who are competitive, who are playing to their outs, and they know the rules like the back of their hand, and so it can oftentimes come off as abrasive or aggressive.
I consider it the most toxic competitive format.
Yeah, it's hard to sit down and play. Like honestly, I've walked through Modern events, and I just don't like the air about them.
Bad vibes, bad mojo,
vibes.
Man.
Yep.
Just shout out to all the Modern players that we just absolutely shit on.
Modern. Yeah.
Yeah. We're shitting on you, Modern.
Well, you know what? We have not once talked about that format on this podcast.
True.
I think, besides in glancing blows.
Yeah, we've been trying to like I feel like all podcasts are like, I'm a Commander podcast, I'm a Limited podcast, I'm a Pioneer podcast.
Well, when your entire format rotates on the release of a single set, that's kind of like it's a toxic sales
and we're talking about Commander right now.
Right? No, talking about Modern. Damn you. But we're not just people who are getting into Pioneer and like settling with that alone. We've also been out doing pre-releases,
tons of drafts.
Tons of drafts. We've been doing drafts within our friend groups and stuff like that. It's just we're playing the game, I guess, in a new way, like different ways that have existed prior.
There's unlimited ways to play the game, and we're dipping our toes into as many of them as we can. Just like you find the group of people that you want to play the game with, who share a group of like interest in terms of competitiveness and that sort of stuff. And then, it gives us the option to dip into these other formats
and you get to
see what the game has to offer.
Yeah, you get to find so much appreciation for Magic and like for the design team and how much work they put in, and you see it on so many different levels. So coming as I've just been a Commander player, I only know cards are good in Commander, and it took me a long time when I started going drafts with Evan. I probably did like 7 drafts where I was just like, what the fuck? Like figuring out that a 2/2 flyer for 2 is banging. Like
Unbelievable.
It's actually a 3 mana 2/2 flyer is the rate.
Yeah, like Giada in Streets of New Capenna was just busted.
Yes, and so it's just kind of that mentality shift where cards I've never looked at before, like Fading Hope. I never would have looked at that.
Or, I mean, you get to experience like history almost, like for when we did the draft for Brothers War, pulling a Worm Coil Engine and like being able to have the experience of playing that card and like playing it as a bomb where it felt oppressive.
Big memory.
It felt like being 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
All the
very like childhood vibes, very like fun nostalgic vibes, and I do love. That's one of the reasons.
So Magic 30 is a great product. Bring back all this memory. Magic 30-year history. Wizards, send me some packs.
Once again, shout out to Magic 30. Hashtag Magic 30.
Yeah, send him the secret layer packs.
Just send me some stuff. It can any swag, whatever you got.
Right. But that's why I love like Limited is like you get to fully appreciate the whole set encompassed within itself. Like everything is balanced to play each other. And, on top of that, they've managed to fit a whole theme, art, direction, new story, new lore. You get to literally just go in and like fully see, like going out to a movie on premiere night, at a pre-release. You get to see what this team has been working on for 3 years leading up to this coming out. And so I think that's a really cool new way to do it. And every time I feel like we go to a different format, I feel like I learn a new strategy. I feel like I take a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the game with like just that Commander or CEDH like mindset, like you have a kind of tunnel vision and you're seeing
100%.
a very narrow aspect of the game.
Yep.
Like you're only really seeing 4 or 5 cards from each set maybe, and you're not experiencing the other 200 cards in that set,
right?
Which might be fun outside of a more competitive environment, or in some other format.
Yeah, and with a competitive mindset, you might see the set release, and there are only like you said, 4 or 5 cards that are actually viable to a competitive strategy in the larger picture of things, like in the larger game of Magic. But when you switch and you decide to go to a pre-release or you go to a draft, it turns every single card in the pack into a viable option.
Yes.
And that is what is so like almost refreshing about the whole thing, is that like you evaluate cards in a different way and you're forced to think about things in a different way if you want to get the dub. Like
you have to use all your tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commons and uncommons, mostly commons, make your game.
There's the 1/2 flash, it's like a 1 and a white, 1/2 emergency paratrooper. I can't remember the exact name, but it's a
ambush paratrooper.
Yeah, ambush paratrooper from Brothers War, and it's like a crazy good common because also stapled to it, it says you can pay 5 and creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yeah,
and you're like, this is a common.
It's a lot of words on a common.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it is awesome. Your whole strategy, all your synergies are based off of commons, uncommons, and if you get like a mythic or a rare, like good on you, you try and fit that in.
There are some commons that are just absolute bombs. Like Jewel Thief in Streets of New Capenna was an absolute bomb. 3/3 vigilance trample that creates a treasure. And then, Tolarian Terror.
I was just about to say Tolarian Terror is my pioneer deck.
That's your jam.
And holy crap, that's common.
Yeah.
It's a very good common.
Yeah, it's just, cost reduction's always good. It's just when you see it in these different formats where you're allowed to play 4 surveils or 4 considers, where you can surveil and dump shit into the graveyard, it's like, wow, that gets really good really fast.
Things start getting really crazy. So yeah, it's just fun, like going from one format, playing something else. Like we did a bunch of these Brothers War drafts, right? And then immediately got into Pioneer. And I guess my deck is technically a standard deck, actually.
Yeah, you can play any format you want.
Yeah. But like when I was building it, I looked at the meta deck for the deck I wanted to build, and then I ended up making a few changes, and like it was like these new synergies I just seen. I just seen how fucking good witness protection is at the new Capenna draft.
Also common.
Also common. And then I started playing Weakstone Subjugation in the Brothers War draft. It slapped just as hard in limited, but then I started playing Weakstone Subjugation in my standard deck for like the first few games, and it was great, only to realize that we had just played a way, way better version of it at the previous draft. So I swapped those out with the witness protections, and it has been a powerhouse in that deck.
It's crazy annoying.
And it's
so annoying.
And I've looked at probably 30 different like quote unquote meta standard blue tempo lists. Not a single one's playing it, and not a single one is playing Teferi, and not a single one's playing Ledger Shredder.
Yeah, there just are not enough slots for enchantment removal in any of these constructed decks. That's the shit you sideboard for.
Yep.
So, like, yeah, I mean, that witness protection is incredibly powerful when you're not having. I guess that's the big thing about like a singleton 100-card deck is that you have to prepare for all these sort of circumstances, right? But in these formats, you have the opportunity to sideboard, and so you can create this like crazy refined machine of 60 cards. And then,
Game 1, you just do your thing.
Yep,
and
100%.
You
Yeah,
know,
like
then-
here's my engine.
Game 2, you win. Guess what? I'm probably just going to run it back, maybe slot in a couple things for things that I saw from my opponent, but more than likely, I'm going to continue doing the same thing. But your opponent is also going to be slotting in their answers, sideboarding for you to try to flip the script. And that is also another like element to this whole strategy is like sideboarding. Insane thought.
Yeah.
For someone who's just played Commander for so long.
Totally.
I mean,
I still wrapping my head around it.
So I might be different here. I have a soft sideboard in Commander, and you guys probably have it.
We've thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, where it's just like you have those dozen cards or whatever.
The flex slots.
The flex slots, exactly.
Yeah.
I kind of think of that as sideboarding
That's
in
fair
Commander,
enough.
where like depending on the pod, depending on the group that night, like you're not necessarily throwing in a rest in peace because you're playing against a graveyard deck and being like, I'm gonna fuck that graveyard deck. It's just like
Usually frowned upon in Commander.
Yeah, this deck is like a
pack heat for one person.
for what everyone else is using as their commander. Like this deck is probably a power level 8.5 or something, and we need to get this down to like a 6 or a 7 so everyone has a fun time. So you have those flex slots, and then that's sort of what sideboarding is in Commander.
That's
Right.
totally fair.
Yeah.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Usually my flex slots are like, if I'm in like the terms of my all gas no breaks deck, my Grixis like CDH bullshit deck, it is just like there are 80 cards that are never changing in there, and maybe 75 cards, and then I can pretty much rip out those other ones for like a new strategy. Like my Malcolm teamer or my Malcolm Grixis list is getting turned into Evelyn the Covetous, and I think I need to change 8 cards. So I think though that's kind of how I think of flex slots, but that's more because ever since I've been in Commander, I have never stopped brewing. Like my decks have never stayed stagnant, and pretty much I'll just refine and refine and refine and refine until I get onto something else, and then I'll sell the deck and start from scratch, or at least I didn't play all the same colors now, so I'm sitting a lot of the main staples, so it's less of that nowadays.
It was a sad day when Alayla went bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, I started with Yuriko, and I maxed out Yuriko, and then Yuriko became a Layla, and I maxed that out, and it's just been probably been like 30 decks since then, but
Yeah, the one thing I do love about this constructed format now is that now that I've built this deck, I also do not ever have to worry about it rotating.
yeah,
Like, this is a deck that I can just sit on and go play Pioneer Night
right.
every single Friday for the rest of time.
Right. That's not why I'm not really worried about my standard deck, is my standard deck will just become a Pioneer deck, and if anything, that'll make it stronger, because then I'll just add a few more
Yeah,
cards
larger
to it.
pool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
So I guess that's the cool thing about Pioneer right now is that if you wanted to like get into a constructed format, it's made without all of the broken parts of Modern. You're excluding Modern Horizons, and you're excluding like a lot of the fetch lands and stuff that like would ultimately like turbo a deck out, would either refine it and like
Honestly, I mean, not to interrupt, but like when they announced the format and off the bat they were like, we are banning the fetch lands to shuffling takes up too much time, blah blah blah. I mean, really the incidental thing that happened to make this a good format is that it delayed the wins by a turn or a turn and a half.
I fist pumped when they said that.
Yeah. I think everybody was like pretty excited about Pioneer and the concept of it when it first came out. It just came out at such a bad time
Yeah, I mean, no one knew.
It almost died on the vine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you turn the corner and you hit a pandemic, and then it's just like, okay, I guess this format's just dead. It was announced.
There was no
right?
arena support for it or anything like that.
Yeah. It was announced. There still is no arena support.
True.
Yeah, I mean, Historic is not the exact same card pool. They're trying to get
you can play
closer.
alchemy cards in Historic, which I've seen recently, and that's super annoying.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, the card pool is like 80% overlap.
Yeah, we're not touching alchemy on this branching out podcast.
Yeah, but I guess like the cool thing is with Pioneer is that now that it is alive and well and is flourishing, is that every new set dumps new cards in, and you get into play with like a lot of like strategies that just aren't quite figured out yet, and that's like the big thing is that the card I guess that like the way when you look at like tournament results, it's not just one deck just saying like, hey, I'm winning this whole thing all the time, 60% win rate, like anything like that. Pioneer has had enough diversity like sprinkled out throughout of it, like where it
has a healthy meta.
It has a very healthy meta where I feel like my stupid Labyrinth Raptor deck could show up and just like turn heads. It's like
I'm excited.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing with the card pool, like the gap between the tiers, like there's no tier 0, and the tier between the difference between tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 and jank is not super far apart,
right? I love that I get to play a deck that I find that's super fun and can still like hold its own at the table. Like I might not be playing like side by side with the tier 1 decks, which I'm guessing we were talking earlier is like Is It Phoenix and the Vanifar like combo, but it does like still hold its own at most tables.
There's a lot of fun in this format, and there's a lot of options for deck building and exploration. And yes, like same thing in Commander, like you can build whatever the fuck you want in Commander, and that is what's great. It is like a sandbox format. But again, once you're starting to look at competitive Commander and the competitive side of things, all CDH players talk about it, and there's about 350 to 400 cards that is technically that card pool of like what is good, because in your slots of 99 cards, you have to play the best slots. Like you have to play the best of the best, and there are only so many options for that. Like that is, not a end all be all, but that is why I feel like branching out into Pioneer has been so much fun for us. Is like we really do just get to try something out. Like I love blue, but I would never play mono blue in Commander. Yeah,
there's been, I guess, the one thing that I will like. The last thing I really want to say like about branching out is that there have been such high stakes to playing competitively. Like there's a lot on the line as far as time investment. There's a lot on the line as far as like pride.
These CDH tournaments are not easy to get to.
Like you got to travel, and I feel like these like branching out has taken those high stakes moments and like really significantly reduced them to where I can show up and I'm relaxed playing the game. Like I can go to a pre-release and just know that I'm going to get 6 packs and that is my fate. And I will build a deck out of this. And if I win a game, I'll get a pack.
You can be in the moment and play a game.
Yes, I can play a game.
Yeah.
Which is, I still feel that way about Pioneer. It's like I'm not sitting here like having like numbers roll through my head or anything. It's just very straightforward game and still very low stakes, and I'm just relaxing and playing a game. And I think that's what I'm actually loving the most about branching out is I'm actually
loving the game of Magic.
Loving it more.
Yeah, new angles will kind of just breed creativity and like get you out of your tunnel vision, like you were saying. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm really excited to find the next Labyrinth Raptor deck. Like I built that one and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to play this for a while. And now I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I wonder what that next deck will be for me.
And I think for you too, like the way you like to build a deck in Commander is you think about something you want to do, but then your way that you develop that engine is going to follow a lot of the same lines of play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so in Pioneer, then those lines of play, like, you're not locked into those lines of play. You can find different combo pieces that still like energize you and like, keep you invested in what you're doing when you're deck building and doing your own thing that's, off meta, but not having to then fall back into familiar patterns because they're not there.
It's funny that's exactly how I built my first few Commander decks. Was I had played Standard for a hot minute with Hapatra, and then once Hapatra rotated out, I kicked and stomped like a upset child and moved straight to Commander because I couldn't play a Patra anymore. So
And you're still playing Patra
I'm
occasionally.
still play a Patra because it's just a strategy that I fell in love with, and it's just funny how it worked from going from Standard. I just developed the strategy and took that Standard strategy and moved it to Commander, and now I'm sort of like reversing that whole process.
Yeah.
Listen, I get it. I found the CDH deck that lets me play the Necropotence deck that I was playing 25 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
So
Feels good. It feels really good to like be able to feel like nostalgic in some senses, but I'm just really happy and I'm really content right now with branching out into multiple formats. You know, it's really funny how you can know this game and the rules are all the same, but the game plays differently, like across all these different formats.
It's all different, and you're not going to be good at it. Like, if you're good at Commander, you're not going to be good at Standard until you play it. And like, if you're good at Standard, you're not going to be good at Modern until you play it.
there's a wide variety of experiences to be had in different formats, and like just a wide variety of experiences with like not just the gameplay, with the card pool, with the type of people you're going to encounter,
Right.
All of it.
And to say you're not going to be good at it, I don't mean that as a discouraging thing. To me, that is a very encouraging, fun thing.
Yeah, that's great.
It is a completely different play style, a different like avenue my brain has not worked out yet.
Yeah, if you like
Getting
to learn.
better at something is better than being good at it.
It is so
you
much
know?
fun. Like, I love going to Limited and drafting and getting my ass beat by the same 8 guys or 7 guys, it's an 8-person pod, that go to our local store and draft every single set probably 3 times a weekend. They do the flashback drafts on Tuesday. They're the same crew. And it's so fun to go there and just get my ass beat. But I learn something new every time. I watch what they do. It's really fun. I get to talk to them. And I think it's just great. It's a great way to reach out. And it's a great way to appreciate Magic without having to spend a ton of money on this bullshit Magic 30.
Yeah, sometimes it costs $15 to just go do a draft.
Sometimes I'm just going to spend $15 and draft. And
You get to build a new deck.
honestly,
We did Chaos Draft last week in the pod, and
Yeah.
we each
That's
spent
freaking
under
awesome.
$25.
Yes,
and it
it
was
was
tons of fun.
Yeah, it was Brothers War and Double Masters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got to say is I really think that it behooves everybody who loves this hobby to like just branch out, try other formats, just bring your crew along with you and make it fun and cheap for everybody and just make it approachable. And
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, if you're doing this other stuff, like if you're going to Pioneer, if you're going into doing drafts, like it's an equalizer.
Yes.
Like, everyone in your play group that is familiar with each other's patterns and everything, you get to like reset, and it's almost like you're just at the base level again, and everyone's equal.
a few of us have drafted more than others in our group, but really the playing level is pretty flat there. And so like, Evan and I have been playing a lot of CDH, and we're trying to get like, a few other people to learn CDH, but we inherently have an advantage there. And so we kind of take on more of like a mentoring role sometimes. But like when you're just, none of us have ever done this before, let's get 3 packs and just fucking go at it. It's so much fun to just kind of sit back and
everyone knows
enjoy
the
night.
rules of the game. They don't know what they're going to get. And so, it's a lot, like the ground level for entry is just like as low as it can get. But whereas like you're trying to show someone like, hey, we want you to get into CEDH because we love CEDH. And it's like, okay, so I have this card in my hand. It's Mystical Tutor. What do I go get?
What do I get? Yeah, sometimes those 4 of formats just make things way easier. And sometimes the grab 3 packs format makes things even easier than that.
Yeah. So that's about it
You guys got
for
anything else
today.
to say?
Yeah, I got nothing to end on.
Nah, let's go.
Word.
All right, we're getting out of here.
Fuck Magic 30, but if Wizards Go to the Coast wants
Yeah,
to
send us some, but
packs,
fuck that shit.
go fuck yourself.
If you guys want to
probably
follow
edit
us,
that
you
out.
can find the links and stuff below. That's about it for us here at the MoxStars podcast. We'll catch you guys later, and thanks again for listening. Peace.
Bye.
Appreciate you guys.
We love you, Wizards.